What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today's video is the last video of the year. We are almost in 2021, and I'm sure we're all excited for this upcoming year. It's going to be a much better year, I'm sure, and I hope you're doing safe and well. Very, very important that we're all feeling better and just, primed for what's to come, up ahead. So I'm very excited to do another version of my favorite cinematic orchestral libraries today. And I'm going to be going through every single orchestral section, plus a few extras like piano, jazz libraries, some ethnics, some sound designs, that type of thing. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be well informed on some really solid tools that will get you up and running for your compositions, either if you're a beginner and you're just starting out looking for some new libraries, or if you're already an established composer and you're just, looking around for some new libraries that can help you upgrade your toolkit. Because while we like to blame our tools and we like to say, oh, this new sample library will get me better, this this new string library is going to be the game changer, right? Ultimately, it does come down to not only our skills, but how we use the libraries to their fullest potential. So if we're just relying on our mind to just say like, okay, I'm going to get this new thing, like this is going to make it better, then we're submitting ourselves to gas, the gear acquisition syndrome, and we don't always want that. So hopefully this guide will give you a little bit of an insight into what I prefer, but and while some of those may be tempting to you, maybe, I don't know, always ask yourself, do I really need this library? And what will this new library add to my collection and help me do that my current libraries cannot do? So I think that's the most important question to ask yourself. And of course, that also comes down to your personal style of music, okay? So two things before we begin here. Number one, if you want to go a little deeper and take a look at my personal preferences in like a written form and just have like a really condensed guide to check out all my favorite libraries, I want to offer you my cinematic orchestral libraries guide. It's the first link in the description box if you just click on that, and it's absolutely free, but it's a condensed PDF talking about all of these different selections we're going to be covering here today, plus some additional ones that I won't necessarily talk about just because I may not use them as much, but they're also libraries that you should look into just in case you're on the market. So that's absolutely free. It's the first link in the description box if you want to download that. It's like kind of like a companion guide, if you will. And, if you're on the market for some new libraries, hopefully that can help you out. And second of all, there will be some developers that I will not mention, or at least cover in this video because I don't own their libraries, right? And the reason for that is mainly because I'm already covered with what I already have. Like the tools I already picked up, they already cover all my needs, so I don't really need the excessive stuff or like more stuff from more companies. Or another reason is because maybe I don't necessarily agree with their marketing strategies, or I don't really like some of the practices they do. But all that being aside, I still want to give these companies a shout out because they do produce some good work. So the biggest one is obviously Spitfire Audio. They've made a huge name for themselves, and they've just released products on a regular basis since the start of the company, I believe, and they deserve a lot of recognition because they do a lot of good work. They do have some frequent sales going on. I think right now, at the time of this video, they have a winter sale happening, right? Until December 31st. Okay, so today would actually be the last day to pick up this stuff. 40% on individual products, 65% with the collections. And yeah, just a lot of stuff happening here. They have a lot of the orchestral libraries covered. They have individual sections, collaborations with big names, originals, which are more affordable packages. And they also have their lab series, which is totally free, and Piano Book, which is another free website where you can download a lot of free instruments. So Spitfire is definitely one to look out for if you are in need of some instruments. Another one is East West, or soundsonline.com. They do some wonderful work as well, and their standout feature is the Composer Cloud. So they offer a lot, or actually all of their instruments for, I believe it's $20 a month, if I just double check. So this is like $200 a year, which is, comes down to about $20 a month, or just a little bit less. And there's another option, $300 a year. So you can save 45% at the time of this recording. But yeah, you have access to all of their material, all of their libraries, and if you don't like it, you can just cancel your subscription and you don't lose very much money. So they do some great work as well. VSL is another famous company. They have covered, of course, all the orchestral sections, and their personal sound signature is more on the dry side. At least their first introductions to the market, and then their Synchron series I believe, is recorded in a different hall, and it's more wet. There's more like reverb to it, and the sound signature is a little bit different. So definitely check out their stuff in addition to these other guys. Musical Sampling is a slightly smaller company run by, I believe it's Aaron Sapp, I think is his name. And let's just quickly check out his instruments here. Instruments, what is this? Orchestral line, I guess, is the main stuff he offers. So trailer brass, soaring strings, adventure brass, adventure strings, and trailer strings. So he mainly covers the strings and the brass for now. Perhaps he'll cover the woodwinds and percussion in the future. And then he also has some other niche libraries like Pluck. I think it's like a guitar or a ukulele library or something. And then some other ones here. Oh, he also covers drums as well, which is really cool. So definitely check out Musical Sampling for some alternative libraries. And then 8DO is another big guy. They do frequent sales as well. And yeah, they've covered all the orchestral sections. They have a lot of themed products as well. And a lot of new releases coming out all the time. So I would kind of compare what they do similar to Spitfire. Like, they have a lot of stuff coming out all the time, and the quality is quite good. So definitely check them out as well. And then we have Aaron Venture, who has risen to popularity quite recently, and he offers the Infinite series, which removes the need for key switches and just allows you to play on the keyboard, and you get a pretty realistic performance out of the gate. And that's always something that is very useful to have and appealing to a lot of people. So that's definitely something he's working on for the strings and percussion to get those libraries out the door. He already has the brass and the woodwinds available. Okay, and finally, the last one I could think of at the moment is SWAM, or audio modeling. And I believe rather than sampling real instruments, they actually have this technology that allows them to recreate the sound of these instruments. And because of that, it's relatively flexible to work with, and you can really fine tune the performances to get the sound you want. With traditional sampling, you don't really get as much flexibility because the sound is actually baked into the performances, right? They're real instruments being performed. So if you tweak the sound too much, it's not going to sound as realistic. So this is an alternative method to go for if you want ultimate control over your instruments. I personally don't work this way. I use traditional sampled instruments, and so that is where I go. Okay. And so these are the 7 companies that I can think of off the top of my head that do some great work, but I don't personally own. And if you can think of some more, please leave it as a comment below and let me know. Let everyone else know some companies that I forgot to name as well. All right, so let's get into the all-in-one libraries first, because this is pretty much the question I get the most is, as a beginner, what all-in-one orchestral library would you recommend? And there are quite a few out there on the market, but the ones that I personally own, I'm going to show you right now. So the first one I can definitely recommend is called the Orchestra Complete 2. And this is like an upgrade to the Orchestra 1 by CineStrings Core and Best Service, but essentially it's a really cool library where they combine the samples together to create these beautiful lush orchestrations and loops that are played in real time. And so it really sounds like the instruments are being played by these musicians in a pattern, if you will, And so there's different themes you can select, like different moods, characters, and then the presets set up different time signatures, different instrumentation choices for you, and it's really interesting. So if I just play something like even just a G major chord here, turn the level up a little bit. Right, so super cool. That's just one of those. Let's see, Light in the Darkness, to see what that would sound like. I don't know, you could just have a lot of fun with this, and you could basically switch different articulation instruments in and out to create your own type of patterns, but the presets they give you are really cool for inspiration. So there really is no other kind of library like this on the market, so can definitely recommend it if you're looking for something to get you up and running really quickly. The next one is Nucleus, the Orchestral Core by Audio Imperia. It's essentially an all-in-one orchestral library as well, with strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion, and choir as well. And I'm not going to go into super in-depth here, but I just give you a couple of examples. So here are the celli, 6 celli here. Then they also have the woodwinds, so let's take a look at the 2 flutes, for example. And you can see each of the instruments also has a classic mix and a modern mix. So the modern mix is slightly more processed than the classic one, which will sound a little more suitable for like trailer music, the modern mix, for example. Okay. And then finally, we have the 6 French horns. Just going to make sure I reload them in here so the samples all play correctly. And here we go. Let's hear some legato. Okay, then another cool option is palette from Red Room Audio, and this one I don't use as much currently, but it's still a great option to have, even if you might have some other libraries already. It comes with Symphonic Sketchpad, which is kind of the main flagship product, and then they also have their expansion packs, the Melodics, which includes like true legato for solo and some ensemble instruments, orchestral effects, which are pretty unique, and runs on arpeggios. So that's pretty cool too. But let's just take a look at Symphonic Sketchpad. So it kind of sounds like this, the string patch. Okay, so pretty dry sound out of the box. Here are some trailer drums, which are pretty neat. That was such gorgeous playing. Nothing better. Okay, and then we have the harp, which is another cool element to include in here. So you can see they have all the basic, orchestral sections in here. No separate instruments, but you do get a sketchpad. I mean, it's literally called a sketchpad, so it's meant to be used for sketching purposes and full ensemble work. But they also have some separated out percussion, which is nice. So they also have a harp and trailer tools and a synth. So let's play the harp a little bit. So it kind of has a very unique tone to it, actually. And then we have a synth. So basic synth, you know. And then you have 2 separate layers. So this one's just the saw here, and then the square. So if you want to change it a little bit, let's say I want to do a sine wave, I can. what's also cool is you can add like reverb, EQ, lo-fi, screamer, things like that. So it comes with a pretty nice basic synth for you to use. All right, moving to the last one to the bunch here, we have the Berlin Inspire series, which is from Orchestral Tools, and it contains solo instruments and ensembles. As you can see here, there's a full orchestra patch here with sustains and staccatissimo, strings, brass, woodwinds, percussion. For example, if we look at the brass, we have a whole ensemble, sustains, briccato, staccato. Then you also have solo horn, solo trumpet with legato. So they have some solo instruments and a lot of ensemble work as well. But it's kind of like a taster package of the Berlin series, and it's basically designed to get you into their ecosystem. So let's hear some of the sustains here. Just a really lovely tone in this library. Okay, and then the staccatissimos. So it's always fun when you can play around with patches like that. Always good inspiration starters. So yeah, all-in-one libraries are always a cool option if you're just starting out, and if you don't really want to delve too deep into orchestral music, but you just want a package that gives you a bit of everything, then these are always a good option. Let's move on to pianos. Now, the one I use all the time and I talk about on my channel quite a bit is CinePiano from CineSamples. I love this library. It's quite versatile, and it comes with 4 unique patches. So let me play this a little bit for you, and you'll have a listen to what this sounds like. It's also cool because you can have bias forte, so all of the notes will tend to be on the louder side. Whereas bias piano, of course, is the opposite. Okay, so a very cool library, very cool patch. Then we have the classical patch, which is more dedicated to classical playing. For example. Then you have something like the cinematic patch, which is naturally more cinematic. It's a little more intimate and reverby and washed out just a little bit. So. We have the Rock Studio Grand, which is true to its name. All right, so for me personally, I typically use CinePiano the most. It's just for me the most versatile instrument out of them all, and it fits in an orchestral mix very, very well. Then we have Embertone Walker 1955 Steinway D. This one I don't use very much at all. However, it's always a nice character to have if you do need a more intimate sounding piano. Another cool library is Sound Iron's Emotional Piano Lite, Emotional Piano, but there's comes with different patches. So we have the like a jazz version, we have the main version, there's a soft, there's granny, but I just chose the light patch here. So very characterful, but also very intimate at the same time. Then there's the classic Cinematic Studio piano, another one I don't really use, but it is there if you do want it, and very affordable as well. Okay, and finally we have the Ascend Monogram from Heaviosity. So in addition to a regular piano, this is also a sound design favored piano. So here is the default patch that it loads with here. Okay, so a very interesting sound, but you can choose different, let me see if I can find it here. Here you could also, it's in the snapshots, that's what I was looking for. So there's the Core Concert D, which essentially is just the regular piano by itself. Sorry, the samples are just loading in there, but you get the idea. Right? But really it comes to life when you go through the different patches here, the snapshots, where there's a bunch of sound design capabilities. And again, this one I would use for special effects. I wouldn't use this as my, regular piano day-to-day because I have CinePiano covered for that, but that's just my personal choice there. So those are pianos I can definitely recommend. And there's different felt pianos, there's upright pianos all over the place, native instruments, Spitfire, there's many, many choices out there, but these are the personal ones that I like to use myself. Okay, another big section to talk about is solo strings. Now here I really only have experience with a few libraries. I don't like to spread myself out too thin here, but the Cremona Quartet is a very interesting set of instruments. I reviewed them already on the channel, and I think they work pretty well with classical music, that style of thing, whereas the other library I'm going to talk about, Cinematic Studio Solo Strings, works better for romantic styles of music that are more lush and vibrato heavy. So let me just play through the Stradivari violin really quickly here. Virtuoso patch. Then we have the cello. So pretty full-bodied and rich sound there. All right, let's take a look at Cinematic Studio Solo Strings and take a look at the Violin 1. So like we already mentioned, this library is very romantic and more emotional in general, so you'll definitely hear this. And finally the cello. There was a strange cutoff there, but I think it's just because I loaded the patch a while ago, and then there was a sudden like a little glitch there. But usually there's a really nice tail to that. All right, moving on to Cinesample's Tina Guo Cello Legato. This is a classic. Many people own this library, and it is a very, very rich but really upfront and warm sound as well. All right, and the second installment of the library is a little more flat, but it contains more articulations and it's a little bit more flexible. So all right, let's take a look at the orchestral tools versions of the solo strings, and I'm specifically talking about the Tableau solo strings from Organic Samples produced by Orchestral Tools. So let's actually go into the mixer here and make sure we have this library soloed up. So I'm just going to make sure do solo there, and we should be able to hear the violin here. So a nice instrument, but I feel like especially the transitions themselves don't really have as much of a slide to them. That's probably why it feels a little less expressive to me, but you know, it is what it is. So then we also have the ornament that comes with it as well. And let me just open up the menu here to show you some of the articulations. So it has ornaments, it has immediate sustains, accented sustains, marcato, spiccato, pizzicato, tremolo. So basically the workhorse articulations there. Then we have the violin spiccato. So solo it up here. Then we have the pizzicato, which sounds pretty clean as well. Cool. So that is basically the idea of Tableau solo strings. It comes with a viola, cello, and violin. No bass, no double bass there. Okay. Moving on to the strings. All right. So my workhorse string library is still Cinematic Studio Strings. It has a very dark and rich tone to it, very lush and very expressive. And this is a classic. I think most people know about it. So let's just have a quick listen to what this sounds like. cello. Just a classic library that most people seem to enjoy, myself included. All right, then taking a look at Afflatus strings here, a very interesting library. It's essentially a multitude of libraries combined into one. It has legato patches, it has pads, experimental patches, and I just want to show you a couple of them here. This is the Cinemour Cello's Legato, their version of really romantic playing legato. Then we have a shorts patch. That was crazy. Then we have some pads. So you can see it already gives you soundscapes right out of the box with a super low footprint there, 17.43 megabytes. That's like nothing, right? Then moving on, we have Areia, which is another cool library from Audio Imperia. It's a dedicated strings library. Kind of sounds like this. So recorded in a very nice and full hall, really nice microphones with, again, the classic and modern mix like Nucleus. But of course, this is a dedicated strings library, so it comes with legato patches, staccato, spiccato, all the basic articulations, you know, all of that. But so if you're looking for kind of a bright and detailed kind of library for modern style music, I would definitely give Areia a shot. Cool. All right, then we have the classic Berlin strings from Orchestral Tools. And so I still use these patches on occasion. It sounds like this. A really cool glissandi patch. So you can really make it feel like it's doing a glissando going up, you know? That's a really unique patch. And then we have CineStrings Core, which is a library I really like to use for short articulations, really biting and really nice sound. So this is recorded at the MGM scoring stage in Los Angeles, very warm and very full sound as well. And then the new kid on the block, Vista from Performance Samples. This is a library I have fallen in love with over the past few days while playing it. It's lovely. I'm going to do a full review in January, but I just wanted to show you a little insight into what this library kind of sounds like. And this is a legato only library, so just be aware of that. And then there's a couple bonus patches, but one of them is a 3 violins triple forte overlay, which is super passionate. So this library is marketed as a larger-than-life chamber strings library, which is certainly accurate. It definitely has this symphonic feel to it, and I feel it would layer very, very well with something like Cinematic Studio Strings or Berlin Strings. Staying in tune with the string libraries, let's take a look at another new library called Berlin Symphonic Strings, which I've already done a review for as well. But this is another orchestral tools library. Let's see if I can find it here. And actually, why don't we just quickly take these guys out just to save on some room here. Okay, so moving to the, move this down a little bit. There we go, because we're going to take a look at JXL Brass in a little bit. We have the violins 1. Let's get that going. So that's a channel 1. Here we go. So the Teldec sound is beautiful. It's recorded in that hall. Keep in mind that this is not the updated version just yet, so I haven't had the time to really download the update, but yeah, the expression is a little bit muted, as I've mentioned before in the review, but I feel like the cello is where it really shines, to have the expression in there, and the legato transitions are especially effective there. So let's have a listen to the cello, and let's just make sure the channel's set properly. I think it is, and let's have a listen. Oh, make sure it's soloed. Then they have their rapid legato, which is ideal for faster playing, like runs and things like that. And then the pattern legato is ideal for like ostinati and things like that. Okay, so a lovely sound from there as well. All right, so moving on to the woodwind section. My flagship workhorse library is still Berlin Woodwinds up to this point. At the time of this recording, Cinematic Studio Woodwinds has not been released yet from Cinematic Studios. And so I'm still using Berlin Woodwinds. It has a beautiful sound, and the go-to instruments I use are the flute and the bassoon, which we're going to hear in a little bit. But just want to show you a couple of these instruments here. So we have the flute one legato. Then we have basically like a runs patch, which I think is built off of, yeah, like kind of short notes, but you get the legato in there. So it's kind of like. I really like that, actually. To me, it sounds pretty convincing. I love that sound of the runs. Then we have the piccolo flute legato. Okay, then we have the flutes in octaves legato. Bassoon has a really rich tone here. Also a big fan of that vibrato baked into the samples. Then from their Berlin series, this is also still from Berlin Woodwinds Revive, or I guess a legacy version of it. We have the English horn. Here the transitions aren't quite as smooth, and the sound is a little bit more sterile, so I think they really start to shine in the expansion packs here. where I'll show you that in a second. But the next one is CineWinds Core from Cinesamples, a very upfront and rich sound, primarily intended for solo instrument features. So kind of sounds like this. This is the these are the short notes first of all. Moving on to the flute. So a very rich tone in the Sony scoring stage there as well. Then we have, in contrast to that, these instruments from Berlin Woodwinds Expansion B and C, which are recorded in a smaller booth, but they have a Teledex IR applied to them, so you still get a nice reverberant sound. So here's what the English horn sounds like, and these instruments are intended to be solo instruments. Okay, and then we have the solo bass flute as well. Sounds like this. And the really cool thing about these expansion packs is that they don't actually have an infinite looping sustain. The players will actually play the note until they see the need to release the note, and then they come off naturally as they see fit. So it's kind of interesting. Cool choice there. Then we move on to Hollywoodwinds. This is a classic, mainly known as a runs library for woodwinds. There's also playable textures, there's rips, as you can see, and staccato. So we'll go over these in a little bit, but let's hear the classic major scales. So yeah, I mean, this library has infinite possibilities, really. Like the scales themselves, there's many types of scales: whole tone, chromatic, octatonic, keyboard patches, lots of different styles of playing, like octaves, 2T, major minor triads, unison tremolos, which I use all the time, chordal tremolos, and then the textures, like we just played one of them here. So this is a wonderful library. Really a must-have for any cinematic orchestral composer who uses Woodwinds in context of a fuller mix. All right, moving on to the brass. Okay, so I've already covered my favorite brass libraries in last year's video, of course, but CineBrass is still a workhorse library for me, like Core and Pro. I actually use Core quite a bit more just because the trumpet ensemble articulations and the six horn ensemble legato and the shorts I use quite a bit. So it's really beautiful, but I just wanted to show Sonore and the Descant horn in this video. So this is what the trumpets sound like in Sonore. So some people might consider the sound more synthetic just because it feels like a really buttery sound in a way, and you don't really get the defined sound of the trumpet as much. But yeah, I think it's entirely contextual. It depends on the type of mood that you're going for. So anyway, here are the horns. Right there is as loud as it goes. It actually peaks out at about a mezzo forte, and the point of the library is to be really full-bodied and really warm, ideal for like soaring melodies, that type of thing. Nothing overly crazy like in a lot of trailer music. Then we have the Descant horn, which is very simple. It comes with shorts and legato. So here's what that sounds like. Here are the short notes. Then we have the legato, so really interesting. I think this is one of Cinesample's best libraries to date in terms of how they mastered legato, and the tone of the instrument is just so beautiful. Cool. Okay, then we have Cinematic Studio Brass, and this library was released 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And this is what the full ensemble patch sounds like. So. Yeah, it really gets up to that soaring fortissimo there. Just a slight overload on my CPU at the moment. I have a lot of instruments loaded in for this video, so forgive that, please. Then we have these 2 trumpets legato. Trombones. So nice brassy tone there at the finish. And just hear a bit of the short notes. Then we have the solo horn. Beautiful sound here. All right, so yeah, slightly buggy release transitions there, releases there at the very end. But again, I think it's just because of the overload right now. But it's not too bad. Just like when I'm playing it, you know, when I'm actually writing a cue and using these libraries, the releases are entirely natural. So here's the tuba here. Beautiful sound. All right, then moving on, we have Berlin brass. So pulled up a couple of these instruments. We have the horn one legato. Beautiful sound. I use this quite a bit. Caps out at about a mezzo forte at the most there. This is, again, before the instruments have actually been transported over to Cine, because Orchestral Tools mentioned that they're going to be adding an extra fortissimo layer to the brass this coming year. And then we have the bass trombone legato, kind of a unique instrument. Finally, we have the trumpet ensemble legato. Love that tail there at the end. Cool. And then let's take a quick look at JXL Brass, because this is another popular brass library that is kind of claimed to be an all-in-one brass library. Like, you don't really need much else for your cinematic brass needs. So let's have a quick listen to the full brass here. Okay, I'm gonna overload if I go too much louder there, but it's a huge dynamic range. Okay, then we have the trumpets A3. Okay, you get a sense of what that sounds like there. We have the horns A4. All right, then we have the Chimbasi. So really rasping and really soaring if you turn the mod wheel all the way up there. Again, a big, big dynamic range. Okay, and finally the tuba here. Looks like I've only downloaded the close mic here. Perfect. All right. So that is JXL Brass. Okay, so those are the brass libraries I tend to use on a regular basis. All right, so when it comes to percussion, CinePerc is really the only percussion library that I'm using right now, and it's all encompassing, it's huge, it does pretty much everything. So when it comes to orchestral percussion, you can't really go wrong with this library. So the low rolls in the timpani are here. Ends off with a nice hit there. And then your single hits are up a little higher. So you can hear how full-bodied that really is. Then we have the bass drum. Different types of bass drums. Snares. Toms. Just love the sound in there. So gorgeous. Then in the Pro folder, they have the drum kit. Okay, and the other percussion library I use quite a bit is the Damage 2 library from Heaviosity. This was a huge release that came out this year, and the ensemble designer for me is the key element for me. So there's also the kit designer, which you can assign assign different instruments like a drum kit, and then the loop designer is specifically like for loops. So ensemble designer kind of goes like this. And that's just one snapshot. There are so many here. This is just the default patch, but there are so many you can choose from. So you can't really go wrong with that library either for cinematic percussion. Then we have the toms from Metropolis Arc 3, a wonderful library as well. But here are what the toms sound like. Okay, yeah, there's just so much to go through here, so I'm not spending too much time on each of these. But then we have some choirs, which are a very important staple in cinematic music. to give it an ethereal human feel, right? And so just let these load up here. Cool. So here we have the Metropolis Arc 1 choirs. These are classic. They sound really, really good. So that's the female, then we have the male. Then in Metropolis Arc 2, we have the children choir. They have a beautiful legato patch. And then here's the sustains. You can get a very angelic sound here. And then in Metropolis Arc 4, you have the power legato, and this is 3 males. So operatic. Then in Time Macro and Time Micro, they have some choirs as well. This is the mixed choir sustains I believe, from Time Macro. Just imagine when they release a choir library. And then we have ooze. Not only do they have the default choir patches, but they also have some interesting experimental patches with the choir as well. Okay. Then we have Cinesample's Men of the North, I believe it's called. Voices of War, Men of the North. So let's have a listen to what this sounds like. Let's hear some legato. So it's really meant for kind of like a Nordic type of feel, I think. Very, very interesting. Then Stress Off Sampling has their StormChoir Ultimate, which sounds a bit like this. So very like throaty, really rustic type of sound. And this library comes with a syllable builder, so you can actually create your own syllable sequences in the library, which is something that's very neat in this library. Kind of reminds me of how East West has their word builder for their choirs, kind of a similar thing. Then we have the choirs in Nucleus, which has sopranos and basses as well. Love how the vibrato just comes in there. Some staccatissimo phrases. Then moving on, we have the choirs from Jade Ethnic Orchestra, which is a really, really interesting Mongolian choir. It sounds a little bit like this. Yeah, you're not going to get that sound in another library. Nice. Then we have the men. A lot of fun. And then the harp, I pretty much use CineHarps. So the concert harp sounds like this. And then they also come with a glissandi patch. So very, very flexible. And there's so many different options there. That's why I love this library. And that's only the first 2 patches. Then they have all these other ones too. So definitely check out the walkthrough videos there. All right, moving on to the ethnic libraries. Got a couple here to show you. Number 1 is Jade Ethnic Orchestra from Stress Out Sampling. And this one, just to show you a couple of the instruments here. So they have, you know, all these different sections, but this is one of the woodwinds. Let's turn off the overlap actually, so I can get the legato. Then we have the erhu, solo, sustain, and tremolo. Morankur, which is a Mongolian type of string instrument. Pipa. So that's an ensemble, so it's multiple pipa players playing together. Then we have the yangkin. Sounds like this. We have some bounces. One of the most special things about this library is the percussion zones. So you can actually go into each zone and set the instrument you want, and you can have up to 12 zones, all having different instruments in them, different percussion instruments, and then play them all at once, which is amazing. So really good stuff here. And let's take a look quickly at Phoenix Orchestra from Orchestral Tools. This is another Chinese agent-based sample library, and I believe, where did I put it? Right here in Phoenix Orchestra. So let's have a listen to this guy and set that up here. Sounds like this. So we only have the spot mics loaded up here, but let's see if we pull up a tree mic, what that would sound like. Actually, let's put it on for the CU as well, see what difference it makes. Okay, moving on to the Sun, which is a very, very quiet instrument. Okay, moving on to the Erhu ensemble. It's always fun to hear the Erhus playing together. Okay, again, kind of a drier sound there with the spot microphone. Then we have the Gujing. Let's put on the tree mic and set up the microphone there. Let's see the playable range. And finally, we have the percussion menu. So let's see what this sounds like. So just a variety of hits laid over the whole keyboard there. And if you want to, you can actually go in and choose the individual instruments you want to drag into the articulation menu. But for my case, I don't use the library that much at the moment, so I don't need to do that. Cool, we're almost there. Then we have some sound design libraries, and that includes just a couple of libraries here. I don't really do sound design very much, but if I do need pads or something, then I'll go with Elysion. So this one sounds like this. Down just a little bit. Again, I apologize for the overload. It's just a lot of libraries loaded in, but right, so that's one of the patterns. Let's choose another one here. Wait, why don't we do Sources of Life? That's a 3/4 time signature. Let the samples load in here. All right. The GUI change. It's like as you push up the mod wheel, it really gets brighter, like the sun's coming up. Pull it down, it goes all the way down. So it really is inspiring. Rise and Hits is a classic native instruments library. It literally just rises and then hits and goes away. And then you can just get the hit if you want, just like that, by playing the upper range. And it's quite flexible because you can set the amount of bars you want it to lead into. I've just pulled in the general rise and hit patch here, but you can get really specific with it as well. And the Mosaic Tape is a really cool library from Heaviosity. And where is it? Over here. You can have quite a few source options. You go into options and you have 3 different channels. You can layer sounds on top of each other. And yeah, you can really go through and choose as many as you want there. So, for example, if I bring the mud wheel all the way down to the bottom, you get the more raw source material. But as you push up the mud wheel, adds a little more tape saturation to that. Let's go with something a little bit different. Channel, and why don't I actually turn off channel 2? How do I do that? Let's mute that one. Let's see, have a listen. Right, so these evolving sounds that happen over time are very, very neat. I probably tend to end up using Elysion just a little bit more because the workflow seems to suit me just a little better, but again, that's down to personal taste. All right, and then finally down to one of my favorite sections ever is the Jazz and the Big Band Library section. I love this genre of music. I work with it not as much as I should, but I really love this. And this library, Birth of the Trumpet, I did a review for. Hopefully you've seen it, but it's just fantastic. So let me show you what I mean. If I just play the library in real time, this is what it sounds like. Right, so it sounds, pretty standard, and you have pretty much all the standard articulations here as well. So you have legato, but you also have rips. Okay, so you get the idea. A pretty standard trumpet library there, but it's when you turn on smart delay that it really comes to life. So if I play if I play something here, it's going to delay for a few beats, 4 beats to be exact, and then it's going to spit out a line that interprets my performance and plays it in a more realistic way. So have a listen to this. Go back to open trumpet there, and I'm just going to play something and then lift my hand and you'll see what happens. I just played it kind of badly there. Let's do that with just a regular C major scale. Right, so suddenly it just comes to life and it's really beautiful, but it's just a mind-blowing technology that I think is super cool. Then we have Noir from Sonokinetic, and they have this beautiful jazz library that is, again, built on phrases, but is relatively flexible because you can change the key, actually. But anyway, let me just play a couple of these here. So. And then we have these sections as well, so. So basically I'm playing a D major chord in the left hand, and now the phrase is changed to D major. And so every key that you play will trigger a new phrase, and then your left hand in the blue key range can trigger the correct key. Another set of beautiful libraries for jazz is the Swing and Swing More packages from Project Sam. So we're looking right here, and this is what the double bass sounds like. So stunning sound. Then we have the big band legato, which is really cool. Take a look at the trumpet Harmon cup legato. Actually, just for fun, let's see what happens if I put the Harmon cup mute on the birth of the trumpet here. And let me see what I got. Harmon, stem, Harmon, where's the cup? Let me find it here. Open, that is the... Oh, that is the cup. Okay, let's put it on the open cup, and let's see what happens if we go... Yeah, pretty nice. And it does sound realistic as well, which I love. Cool. All right, moving on to the full big band chords in Swing More. Right, so pre-orchestrated chords, very easy to play. Then you have the saxophone. Then Swing More comes with the individual sampled horns. So you have... Okay, one of the standout features for me from Swing More is the big band drum grooves, and they have all these pre-recorded drum loops, which sounds awesome, like this. If you want to make it a little more high-end, you can turn up the sparkle, a little less turn it down. And of course, as you speed up your DAW tempo, it's going to speed up with that as well, or slow it down, of course. But these is just recorded at 120 BPM, but it's time flexible. Cool. Okay, all right. And then this library also comes with some strings, some jazzy strings. Here's what it sounds like. Okay. And then we also have the female legato voices. All right. Then Screaming Trumpet from Realitone is a cool library that features Wayne Bergeron, one of the lead trumpet players in Los Angeles, and it sounds like this. I want to have to shake. Listen to Gordon Goodwin's arrangement of The Incredibles. This is kind of what that sounds like. I believe it's also played by Wayne, so you know, if I program this correctly, it would sound more realistic. But yeah, sorry again. Forgive those little blips. Just an overload on the CPU there. Not any fault of the library at all. Okay, and then we have finally Glory Days Big Band Horns. I'm just showing you one of the multi-patches here. This is the trumpet one. It covers a multitude of articulations, but they individually sampled every single horn in the big band. So this is the trumpet one. Sorry, little blips there again. There, it's a little better. And of course the shakes. Super high ones there as well. All right, I think my computer's had enough for a session, but that is essentially my go-to libraries for essentially all my work, whether that's more laid-back film music or, you know, standalone cinematic music or really exciting bombastic orchestral pieces or jazz libraries or piano solos or whatever it is. These are all my go-to libraries for all the type of work that I do. I know it's a long video. Thank you so much for sticking with me through it, but I hope it's given you an insight into my current workflow and what I personally like to use. Please remember to download the free PDF guide on my favorite cinematic orchestral libraries, plus some bonus goodies in there like we've talked about today, pianos, ethnics, sound design, etc. Hopefully it's going to really help you, and just treat it as like a buyer's guide, really. So if you're on the market for some new libraries and you're just wondering, like, oh, there's a new string library that just came out. Wonder what Chris thinks of that. You know, if you're at all interested, usually I'm gonna just be updating it as the new libraries come out, and you'll basically have an updated version every time. So yeah, I just want to thank you so much for watching, and please let me know which library in this video stood out to you. Maybe there's one that sounded really cool and you might think of adding it to your arsenal. Please let me know which one that would be. Or maybe you maybe share like your favorite libraries that you currently use, and if they weren't in this video, let us know what you currently use instead, and why you enjoy the sound of your libraries. So I'd love to know and have a little conversation. And in any case, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Have a wonderful 2021. I'll see you at the top of the year with a brand new song, my first song in 3 years. I'm very excited to show that to you, and I just can't wait for you to hear it. Thank you so much for being with me on this journey. It's been a very interesting 2020, but okay, sometimes life throws these curveballs at us, and we just have to, power on through. So this next year is going to be a perfect opportunity to do that and make some big waves in the music industry. Let's do this together. All right, everybody. Catch you then. Bye-bye.